Good afternoon and welcome to the Music and Technology Seminar at Carnegie Mellon. Before I introduce our guests for today, I want to welcome all of you back from the winter break and wish you all the best for the new year. I also want all of us to welcome back Nick Vlahakis and Kemi, who is here today with us, who rejoins us after a long absence. We are so glad Nick is back.
Thank you. It's good to be back. I stole Kimmy from another. She's an artist. I tell people that I taught her everything about the art world, but it was kind of the inverse of that. I was a nerdy engineer at Carnegie Mellon. But anyway, I stole her, just say hello. And
wanted to say hello, Ricardo.
Hello, Kimmy. It's good to see you too.
Yeah,
this has been one of the most rewarding things that we've done in our charitable life. We're both retired, and meeting the students, the professors, and just having creations like this is just great. So we're going to keep it going as long as we can.
And just getting to know you, Ricardo, is a special treat.
So we're going to have a lot of things to send you about our achievements in multi-track recording this semester. Many of those students are here with us today. Okay, so our guests today are AnneMarie DeGeorge, who is the dedicated career consultant for the School of Music and oversees the on-campus student employment program at Carnegie Mellon, and Sean McGowan, Director of Employer Relations at Carnegie Mellon. AnneMarie is also a violinist, and Sean is a music DJ and plays the guitar. Please welcome AnneMarie DeGeorge and Sean McGowan to the Music and Technology Seminar at Carnegie Mellon.
Well, Ricardo, we want to thank you for having us. This is a real pleasure to be able to talk to all of you at one time. I recognize a lot of the names that I'm seeing on my screen, and I'm going to invite you to go on camera if you are willing. It's much more fun from our end of the Zoom if we're talking to people rather than names on the screen. I know a number of you because I've met with you. So after that introduction, I won't say anything else about myself. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen because we're going to give you an overview today of the Career Center, some of the services that we provide, some of the support that we can give you as students. And Sean's going to go more into what employers do with CMU and give you some ideas about how you can reach out to companies for jobs, for summer internships. And we'll talk a bit about building a network and how important that is to your job search and your career. Besides inviting you to go on screen with your camera so we can see your faces, I also want to invite you to ask questions. Both Sean and I sort of thrive on conversation more than on just lecturing. So we're going to tell you some things, and then we're going to invite you to just ask questions, and we'll try to answer your questions and have a discussion. Sean, anything you want to add to that before we get going?
No, I'm really excited to be here with you all. Like I said, AnneMarie and I are also fellow musicians and, spent a lot of time, in that world. And now we have our regular day jobs. And I think in some ways we envy you going out into the industry and kind of chasing your passions. So we're really excited to be able to help some of these processes, especially as you're navigating your job search, how we can actually help and provide you with an advantage in that, or at least help you with a leg up in the sense of we've spoken to many students over the years, and we have a lot of knowledge and expertise as it relates to situations, whether it's anything from negotiations to job search. So we're really excited to kind of share a lot of that today.
All right, so I'm going to start by just, for those of you who might not be aware, explaining that in the Career and Professional Development Center, which most people at CMU call the CPDC, we're kind of divided into two parts. One is the student advising, that's where I work, and the other part is employer relations, that's where Sean works. So on the career advising side, we are student focused first and foremost. We have individual meetings where we can counsel students one-on-one. I also go into classrooms a lot, primarily in my case, in the music entrepreneurship classes. So I work closely with Monique Mead, Monica Eunice, Stephen Neely, and Dennis Colwell. So you might see me in class, you can make a one-on-one appointment with me, and then sometimes I come into seminars like this one or the composers seminar and others. So if you wanted to make an appointment one-on-one to talk about your individual situation, if you're not sure what you want to do, we can certainly talk about exploration of different career paths, different ways of working. Some people really want a corporate job. Some people much prefer freelance. There's pros and cons to both, and some people try different ones at different times in their life. So we can explore different options. I do resume reviews all the time, no matter what you do in terms of job search. Whether you're going to go out on your own or you're trying to get a job in a company, you're going to need a resume. You're going to need to know how to write a cover letter, and you're probably going to want a website or some kind of portfolio online. So I advise students about those materials and products that you'll need to help you in your outreach to potential employers. We can talk about how to find job opportunities, how to apply. I do mock interview. So interview prep is something that a lot of people want. I find that practicing, just like if you're practicing an instrument or you're practicing any realm of your music production, practice really is important, to help you not only gain confidence, but to know what you want to focus on in the interviews. So the more you practice it, the better and easier interviewing will be. So I can help students with that. We can talk about networking. I do look at job offers. I actually have about 15, maybe 20 years of human resources experience in corporations. So I've seen thousands of job offers, and I can help you through evaluating the terms and negotiating. A lot of people want to go on to grad school, and we actually help with that too. So if you have an application, you want me to look at some essays or just talk through different options for graduate school, that is something that I do. And lastly, some people are looking for funding. Often this is for a summer job. Sometimes it's for a research project. So I can help guide you through different funding options. And I just want to use this opportunity to mention to the undergraduate students in this group that we do have a summer internship experience fund that music students do qualify for. The application is going to open up at the beginning of February. It's called SEAF, that's Summer Internship Experience Fund, or DOSI, which is one that's Pittsburgh focused. I'll be putting it in my newsletter, but I really encourage music students to take advantage of that funding if you have a low or unpaid summer experience. All right, and then just to wrap up this overview of what the CPDC student advising can help you with, we do have 3 main places online where you can find resources. The School of Music website, we have a career page. It is a little bit buried, unfortunately. So you find it by going to current students, and then you'll find a section called career resources. I think you have to now go over to the right side to find that career resources, but we have things like lists of summer programs, performance opportunities locally, some samples for marketing and self-promotion, sample contracts, things like that. So School of Music, the Career and Professional Development Center website has a lot of information on it. Again, samples of things, tip sheets, and then a lot of links to resources. And then Handshake is the other big repository of information for careers here at CMU. Sean's going to talk to you a lot more about Handshake, but Handshake is where you can make an appointment with me. It's also where you'll find many thousands of job postings, also resources.
All right. Well, I'm excited to talk about. So my side of the house, employer relations, I have one of the coolest jobs here at CMU because I get to be the consultant to the employers that are coming to look for talent like yourself. So I'm working with companies from industries across the country, whether that be internet, tech, software, electronic computer hardware, media, all the way to nonprofits and government. And I'm helping them put together that strategy. So if you think about it, you are at an elite university. It is not easy to recruit at schools like this because you are in such demand. Companies know CMU, they know kind of where we rank when it comes to technology and the arts. And it can be a contact sport. There's only in certain programs a few students that are coming out each year, and many students need to many companies need to ensure that their brand is connecting. They need to make sure that they're going to the right events, that they're going to the right avenues, that they're connecting to students with the right skill sets. So that's really what my role is here to do, is to help make their job easy. So that way they connect with people like yourself. Hopefully they're successful, and that they come back year over year and continue to keep. And as we build alumni at these institutions, these companies and employers, institutions, that's just going to continue to go, hey, we need to make sure that we get a music and technology student next year from CMU, because they have such a great reputation. So I get to kind of be on the forefront of helping these employers. In many ways that we do that, one of the first steps is Handshake, like AnneMarie said. That's an easy way for companies to kind of get their job postings out there. But also we put on things like the large scale career fairs. So if you were here in the fall, you probably saw the STEM fair, which had over 170 companies that came through. And we had multiple days, and those are companies looking for science, technology, engineering, and math students. And then you'll also see different information sessions that are coming in, and tech talks and different chats that will be going through in Handshake. So any one of those events and employers that are coming here, you're going to see it in Handshake. That's where we guide every single employer. So if they are coming on campus to recruit, it would be in Handshake. So we don't market anything unless it's in there. So it's good to, like, and we'll show you this in a little bit, favorite employers, follow certain employers, take a look at who's coming and when they're coming and what they're looking for. That's going to be your best advantage, because that platform is specifically for CMU. So if you see that they're coming to CMU in person, Pittsburgh is not, let's say, New York or Silicon Valley or Boston, where, you know, if you got, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands, millions of people. They have to get on a plane a lot of the time and come here. And if they're putting that money and effort and time, they're looking to hopefully bring someone on. So make sure that you do greet them and you see them if they are on campus. It'll definitely help get you a leg up in the application process, because they look and see who has interest. So here on our webpage, you'll actually be able to see it. So the webpage that AnneMarie showed you before about the CPDC, there are these events listed, but you can also see all these in Handshake as well. That's probably where I would tell you to look the most, because you can actually RSVP within there. But we will have events posted in there a couple months ahead of time of each semester. And we also, like I said, host all the information sessions. Usually the busiest time for info sessions is February into early March. And then you'll also see it in September to early October. And then we also have 28 interview rooms here in the interview center. So if you've been in the CUC, we're in the lower level near the mailboxes. So if you need to either study, or you need to prep for an interview, or you need to do a virtual interview, or if a company's in person and they're actually in our office doing in-person interviews, that is where that'll happen. So just know that we are a resource here. If you need a quiet space, whether it's to study or you need to prep or do an interview, you can contact us, and that information will be on our webpage. Or you can do a walk-in if we have availability, but just know we have that room capability. And employers will do other things like tabling, coffee chats. They're always looking for ways to connect with students, even with student groups. So we try to connect them to where they're looking to go based off their strategy.
John, would you say that more companies are coming on campus? During
Yes.
pandemic, of course, it was all virtual, but is it starting to be more in person?
Yes, it's a big shift that we're seeing right now. So because of the pandemic, many of these companies had put on virtual events, virtual fairs, virtual open houses, and the engagement just wasn't what they were looking for. So they saw a lot of students RSVP across the country, and not a lot of students show up, or they just weren't able to make real personal connections, which has also led to candidates not feeling a big connection with the company. So companies have target strategies. So just like you may have a target list of employers, companies have a target list of schools. So based off at multiple things, you know, rank of program, the types of skill sets that are offered, proximity, they're making those lists of target schools. So one thing that helps, the more alumni we have at certain places, it makes it easier for them to make CMU a target school. But that's also where I can come into play and help, you know, build awareness of what we have to offer. And we do have a lot of data, and which we'll show in a little bit when it comes to outcomes of student graduates, and also our skill sets. We're trying to attract employers to come here. And I'll tell you this, I saw more employers this year than I did last year, and I'm projecting to see more employers coming this year than this past year. We're already trending higher for our STEAM fair for this spring in February than we did for the events last spring. So we definitely know that companies, if they're coming here, it's because they're trying to connect. They wouldn't be coming here if they're just, looking to say hey. So make sure that you're at those events because they do track. And that's where the interest part comes in. They're looking to see who's actually taking the time to RSVP as well as actually check in. So one thing I will note, just because you see RSVP, that isn't just a reminder. Make sure if you are going that you RSVPing and you do show up, because if you don't show up and you apply, they may see oh, that person never showed up, so they don't get a point for that in the application process. So just be wary about just clicking everything. All right, next slide. All right, so as we go through and we look at this industry, I think this was not that I didn't know too much about this program, but I didn't know too much about this program until meeting with, AnneMarie and Ricardo and really hearing how dynamic, how talented the students like yourselves are in this program and how niche it is. And there's not many schools that offer programs like this. And knowing that we're one of the top ranked, it is something that's music to my ears, because again, I want to make sure that when I hear employers talk about audio and they're talking about, media, or if let's say we have a target list and I know which companies that students are looking for, that helps me in my role. So as we look at the top entry-level roles in music and technologies, you'll see that on the left here of audio engineer, software engineer for audio programming, music software development, and then also we're seeing a lot of things when it comes to AI and machine learning, which has happened in the music industry probably earlier than a lot of other industries when you think about Spotify and Pandora and being able to recommend certain songs within the tech industry, even up to speech recognition and things like that. Now, one thing to think about too is, yes, it may be great to always think about Spotify and Apple Music and the top, maybe speaker companies, but there are a lot of industries who hire this type of talent like yourself. Whether that's in film, TV, and media, video games, the gaming industry has become so immersive, even when you take into account the VR, the mixed reality, augmented reality, being able to really connect multiple senses, thinking about education. Recently I put a MetaQuest headset on and they've got guitar teaching, drum teaching, things like that. So people that have the intersection of music and technology are going to be prime candidates for that. I spoke to a student in your program that actually worked for a mattress company that was inputting speakers into the mattress. So I really think that as you're creating your target list and you're looking at, think about where would my skill sets and what industries would be utilizing or types of employers, because you may be one of a few applicants at some of these other industries or companies versus, let's say, being one of 1,000 at a Spotify or Apple. Still aim high. I think you should always aim high, but being able to look and see what are some other types, whether that's even parks and amusement parks and, things like Universal and Disney and, Dollywood and all these others. There's so many different opportunities that they're trying to connect that. And as we think about health and wellness, the mindfulness, things like Breathe and some of these apps that have been coming out, that's also a huge area of wearables and things like that too. So there's a lot of different industries that you could be looking into. And I think research is massive. So as you're developing your strategy, and this is something AnneMarie and the team that work on the consulting side, it's not just applying. Applying is just one part of the job search. You really have to think about, how do I assess what I'm interested in? What I like to do, where could I see myself, what locations, what's the pay and salary look like? Putting together your target list of here's my tier 1, my tier 2, my tier 3, making it so that way it is somewhat segmented and there is a timeline, because you want to be as prepared for your job search as possible. So you're not just spraying and praying with your resume. You want to make sure that you have a targeted outreach, and employers will definitely appreciate that, because when I ask them, what are you looking for? they're not going to tell me coding skills. They're not going to tell me all that. They're looking for interest. They're looking for energy. They're looking for creativity, enthusiasm, people that want to continue to learn, people that can collaborate and work together. So when you're thinking about going to an employer, what are the things that you're doing on the side? Are you breaking things and putting them back together? Do you have a club that's not related to class that's in the music industry? Do you have a band? Are there things that you're doing that shows an interest in the field? And then are you reading articles? Are you going to conferences? Things that really show you that they're interested. And do you know anything about the work our company is doing? Because they want to know, do you like us? Do you want to work here? Can you see yourself here? Because they're maybe evaluating 20 to 30 people, and they want to know, who should I spend the most time on and who's most willing to probably stay for the next few years. So it's not just about listing off your technical skills. It's showing them that you're actually interested in the work that they're doing. That's going to go way farther than just going to a company and saying, hey, I have these skill sets. I saw this job. Be a little bit more dynamic. So then lastly, the trends that we're seeing in the industry, and again, you're probably seeing it in your coursework, and you're probably light years ahead of, what I'm reading and seeing, but obviously AI and music creation, voice and search synthesis, mixed reality and spatial sound. I think if you look at the consumer market, whether it's televisions, headphones, speaker systems, even if you think about Las Vegas and the new sphere that they put out there, everybody is trying to create an experience, an immersive sound. So, whether that's working on a board in a small recording studio or working in one of these, large venues, I think those are the things that, how can you help to create that experience that makes people feel like they're out of their regular mundane life and they're on a beach somewhere because you've made that experience. If you're the mattress company, how can you ensure that that is the sound and that's the frequency? So I think these are things that, as we're moving forward into the future, how can you really build that experience for customers? Next slide.
One thing that I'll add to that too, Sean, when you were talking about applying to jobs, I sometimes hear from music and technology students that you're not sure how to put that on your resume because maybe not everybody knows what that major is, or maybe you're competing for a job against students who have a computer science major and you think somehow that computer science major is more attractive to employers. And I just want to emphasize to all of you that music and technology will set you apart in the process because you have something extra. You do know how to code, you're technically very proficient, you have your own expertise and you're musicians. You have also had to take the fundamentals of music classes and the core curriculum, and that is a strength. So I encourage all of you to sort of embrace that music side of your major when you are in interviews and talking to people about, if it's a technical job especially, don't ignore that side because that's what will help set you apart.
Well said.
All right.
And in terms of Handshake, I went through the past year and took out so many of the job titles that we looked in the past slide. I put a lot of those into the analytics report and ran the report. We had over 400 related jobs and internships posted the past academic year. And if we look at some of the most popular jobs, like I said, Apple is one of our career sponsors for our first center. So we work with Apple very closely. The one company that I saw multiple job postings, which is a great indication for outreach in the future, is Bose. So Bose had multiple job postings and internship postings, and they had quite a few applications from students. So there's definitely a huge interest there. Universal Music, Discovery, Tesla is another company that we work with pretty heavily. And I think it's something to think about is, people are developing, whether it's EVs or vehicles, and these are all coming with multiple systems within it. So thinking about it multidisciplinary, as well as Netflix. And then in terms of the jobs that we were seeing, whether it's vocal technologies, TikTok. So TikTok is another company, again, depending on what happens with the national framework in terms of the ban, we'll see what happens there. But as of right now, it's not banned. So they have been pretty active when it comes to back-end engineering music for their music teams. car audio, as well as BOSS, and you know, signal processing was something that I saw quite a bit, digital signal processing. So there are jobs and internships. You just have to, you know, be able to look. And I'll show you Handshake in a little bit here, but just some of the things that you can do to ensure, like, hey, which companies, you know, is the Career Center connected with? We actually have ways for you to see that too. And then in terms of this, AnneMarie and I and Ricardo met a couple about early May, late fall semester. And we were looking at some of the companies that we've seen post, as well as some of the companies we work with, and potentially some of the companies that we want to go after based off interest, based off relevant jobs and internships. So just know part of my team's job is to be the salespeople in the front end for these companies. So being able to go out there and talk about your program and talk about, you know, what they can do to connect and what our program looks like and how they can recruit. So that's going to be our goal. These are the companies that we're looking to go after. But once again, as you become alums and you go to these companies, you know, be advocates for fellow Tartans as they're looking to, because many of these recruiters will be looking to alums to lead the recruiting efforts for niche fields, especially things like music and technology. So many of the times the recruiting teams are going to have a big, let's say, software engineering recruiting team, but they may have smaller teams for some of the niche roles. So this is where alumni and informational interviews and things like that can really be of a benefit and help you kind of get a leg up. But we're going to try to go after some of these companies here on this list this year.
Yeah, I will invite all of you. This is by no means a comprehensive, complete list. So if you have companies that either they're your dream company or you know someone who's worked there, you think they had a very interesting job, feel free to send me and or Sean a note about it, and we will see if we can include it in any of our outreach. These companies who are posting on Handshake are already interested in CMU students. That's why they're on our Handshake. A lot of students don't understand that Handshake, thousands of universities use Handshake, but if a company is posting on CMU Handshake, they proactively chose to selectively post on our Handshake, and they know you're a CMU student when you apply. So it means they're interested in recruiting our students. So we're always looking for more companies to add to our outreach list. Okay, anything else, Sean, about this?
Nope, that's it.
All right. We just wanted to mention, I think probably most of you already know this, but on our career and professional development website, which is cmu.edu/career, we have a tab called Outcomes, and that is a place where you can look at a lot of data about where our graduates go after graduation. So we don't track it online here 5-10 years out. This is just within the first 6 to 12 months of graduating. Where do our students go? So many go to graduate school and many get jobs. And so every spring, we send out a survey to all students who are going to graduate, seniors and master's students and PhD students who are graduating. And for any of you who will be graduating this May, I am just giving you a heads up. I'm going to be sending out a survey starting in about March, and we have all the way until like next November to gather the data. But what you see on the screen here is a screenshot of what you would see if you went onto the website to look at outcomes. I filtered it by music and technology major within the music school, within the College of Fine Arts, and I looked at 4 years that are online right now. If you are curious about what computer science majors do or what just master's students do, you can filter it every which way. It's informative because it gives you some ideas of companies where our graduates have gone. It gives you an idea of what kind of job titles they have. And in the School of Music, we don't get enough data about salaries to publish our salaries, but in other schools like computer science and engineering, they do. And so you'll see aggregate averages and medians, and I guess ranges too. So it's just an information source that you might find useful, you know, to see where other people have gone. All right, the last thing we just wanted to touch on, because we talk a lot about applying for jobs, and sometimes I think students become very focused on seeking online, finding opportunities to apply to, making sure you have a resume, and then sending out that application. And I, of course, and Sean, we hear about students who apply to hundreds of jobs. Personally, I am a big quality over quantity person. I think that if you selectively and intentionally choose the companies that you're applying to, you're going to have a lot better results than if, what did you call it, Sean? Spray and pray?
Pray and pray. Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't want to just like indiscriminately start saying apply. It's so easy these days to just send your resume, but that's really not applying. Applying to a job requires knowing something about the company, as Sean said, probably demonstrating interest, which might be attending an event, or it might be writing them a nice cover letter. It also can be talking to people who work there. So that's why we focus on, we call it building your network. And we have some resources to help you. Of course, the people in this seminar right now are your network, your faculty, your advisors, graduate students, alumni who have graduated from the program. That's all already sort of a built-in network for you. But beyond that, we recommend that students get a LinkedIn profile. If you don't yet have an account, I recommend that you get one. Build out your profile. It doesn't have to be super comprehensive or complex. Just at least get a photo, you know, a few things from your resume on LinkedIn, because employers do look on LinkedIn and they find candidates that way. Same for Handshake. Build out that Handshake profile, because recruiters do look on Handshake for candidates. And then we have a tool, a resource called CM Universe, which is what we like to say is our private LinkedIn. So it's just for CMU alumni, and it's meant as a mentoring platform, but not necessarily an in-depth long-term mentoring, more of a sort of flash mentoring, if you will. If you want to connect with somebody who's doing a job that you want to learn more about, or you want to hear about their career path, or maybe you're really interested in the company they work for and you just want to get a little bit of information about a job you saw posted, you might be able to find people to connect with on CM Universe. And what is the stats, Sean? Is it still the same? I've for years have said 75 to 80% of jobs are found through networking, not through applying cold.
I would even say, again, it's not official, but I would even think it's higher in this time frame, especially because you've seen a saturation in the tech field, especially because 2022, you had a lot of people getting hired. And then in 2022, 2023, you had a lot of people being laid off. And roles had been really saturated with applications with the introduction of AI, as well as referrals coming from folks. So this is where building your network will come in, because if you are, let's say, and this is something AnneMarie and I talk with in Handshake, if you, let's say you go to apply to a job and it says, apply externally on their company careers page, there are times companies will put a source code. So if you click on that in Handshake, even though it takes you to bose.com/careers, it's going to show when you finish that application that you came through CMU's Handshake. So that's going to flag your system. So that gives you an advantage. So always think, if the job is posted in Handshake first, or at least as a redirect, just click the redirect and go that way to the careers page, because it could help you. It can never hurt you. The other aspect of it is company alumni and other folks, they actually get bonuses in a lot of ways for referring people. And again, that doesn't mean that you should reach out to them and say, hey, can you refer me? You should try to build a relationship, connect, and then obviously as they get to know you, it may make it easier for them to refer you. And I think that goes back into thinking about this as a long play, not just I need something as a transaction right now, because again, they're going to be much more likely to potentially refer you or talk about or advocate for you internally if they actually know who you are, your interest, what you're looking to do, because their name and brand is going to be associated with your application. So think about it that way. Just sending the application is a very small part of the actual job search. So I love that, AnneMarie, you talked about quality over quantity, because if you can look at a company and you can say, okay, these are my top 6 companies and the roles that they have. Here's the people that I may know. My goal for this month is to reach out to 3 of them and maybe get an informational interview and see where that goes. That's going to help so much more than just if you just clicked apply.
Yeah, not to mention, if you end up getting the job, you'll probably be a lot happier because you chose that place for a lot of good reasons why it appeals to you.
Yeah, another thing too is professional associations, and Ricardo may actually have more insight into this, but there are professional associations out there relevant to certain industries and fields and functional roles. And those are great ways. Many people that are involved in those associations, they're doing it to network and meet new people and put on webinars and host meetups in different cities and things like that. So the more that, again, that goes into the interest, that shows into the effort. So always think about that too. Where are other people gathering in the field I want to go to or am into? And maybe it's not alum, maybe it's someone that did a webinar and you reach out and said, hey, that was really interesting. Or someone posts something on LinkedIn or maybe post something on their Instagram or their portfolio page and said, hey, that was a really great piece of work or art that you did. I love how you blah, blah, blah. That is a much better way to kind of get there than saying like, hey, I saw a job, could you help me out? If you show interest in them and you ask people for advice, you'll be surprised how many people are willing to kind of share information. And whether that's your friends, your family, your faculty, like you said, the collaborators, patrons, I love that, AnneMarie, you have that on there because you've got circles and circles of networks that you can tap into.
Yeah, and I also want to say we've been talking a lot about companies, right? Because I think that from what I've seen and what I've heard from music and technology students, a lot of you might be interested in getting jobs at a company, whether it's a big company that we all know the name of or a smaller, maybe a lesser known company. The process is generally the same, but if what you're interested in doing is being more of an independent artist, or you want to be a freelancer, you don't necessarily want to work at a 9-to-5 job, networking is like the first thing that you need to really get comfortable with doing, because, and I sometimes don't even use the word networking because a lot of people find it, I don't know, intimidating or offensive or whatever. I just say talk to people. You want to go out there and talk to people. So if you want to build up your own company, or if you want to be a freelancer and get work with other people, you need other people to collaborate with or to hire you. And the best way to do that is to talk to people, because, as we all know, you talk to somebody and then you ask them, well, you don't have anything. Do you know anybody else I could talk to? They give you a name, and then it just, extrapolate, you get more and more people in your network just through 2, 3, 4 degrees of separation from the person that you really know. This happens over time, doesn't happen overnight. It's a process, but it's something that I encourage you as students to start doing now. Start getting comfortable with it just within your own smaller circle. Then you can start reaching out to people maybe that you don't know, but they know someone you know, and that's how work will come your way. And if anybody has anything to add to that, especially the faculty members who are here, feel free to chime in.
Well, AnneMarie, what I can do is I can share my screen and kind of show a little bit of Handshake and kind of what they can see. So I will do that. So share, and I'm going to share Explore Handshake. Okay. So you should be able to see my screen. So this is my student account. So if I go in as a student, this is what you're going to see on your main page. As your profile, now granted, I'm in there as a mechanical engineer, so some of the things that I'm going to see are going to be relevant to hardware engineering, mechanical engineering. So it's going to give me things because just like many of the social media software platforms you use, it gets to know you as you use it. So the more you fill it in, the more you click on things, the more you go, it's going to give you different content and jobs and things, events as it's related to your major, because it wants you to be personalized. So one thing I hear from a lot of students is, hey, Sean, what companies and jobs are coming from companies that you know of or you're connected to? So if you go into your Handshake account and go into jobs, there's going to be different filters, and you can filter this as much as you want through many different, whether it's internship, you're looking at the type of job, location, but you're going to see something called CMU collections. This is something that we curate from the Career Center, and you can actually go in and see, hey, I want to see companies that have jobs that have a relationship with CMU. Immediately, all the jobs that come from companies that we work with will start to come out. Now, again, this is where you can continue to filter down, just like in Indeed or LinkedIn. You can look specifically at relationships and internships. You can then put in on-site. You can then go look popular with your major. And it can be, like for me, let's say I'm looking at mechanical engineers. Now it's 100 jobs to look at versus 1,000. And you can also you can favorite employers, so you can see anything that company puts out. So that way you get notifications when they post. You can actually save this search and do that, so you don't have to recreate it every time. You can really customize Handshake so that it can help you with your job search. And as we said before, apply externally. Some of these companies are going to have you apply in here, and some are going to have you go directly to the external page. And there's a good chance that Tesla has a source code in this. So when I click this button, it's going to show in their applicant tracking system on Tesla's side that this came from a CMU student and will help your application rise up. So just something I wanted to show you with Handshake. And again, our Career Center is going to have many of the different resources under this page as well. So be sure to go into Handshake, set it up. The more you use it, the better it's going to help. Lastly, I wanted to share with you, we did talk a little bit about mentoring and CMU Universe, but another thing I want to show you that's free to you, and a lot of students have found success, is something called Apollo IO. So if you've never used this before, a lot of you may be trying to connect with people on LinkedIn, correct? So that's probably the first place that you're thinking about to connect. And some people, like recruiters especially, or even maybe high-level folks, they're going to get a lot of LinkedIn messages, which sometimes go into a black hole. They may not answer it, but people are actually more likely to answer an email than they are anything else. So Apollo.io is a free Chrome extension, or any extension on here. So I have Ricardo up here, and Ricardo and I are not connected on LinkedIn. He's a second connection. But with this little Chrome extension, I now have Ricardo's email that I can email directly that will search the pages. And I'm pretty sure that's Ricardo's email. I actually double checked it to make sure. So whether he knows it or not, his information's been stolen by Apollo.io. And if I'm a student and I'm interested in working with Ricardo or connecting to Ricardo, I can send him a personal email and say, hey, I saw the thing that you posted on LinkedIn, or I saw this, I'd love to hear a little bit more, or I looked at your portfolio or your website. Man, that was a really great recording that you put together. Now you're coming through their email inbox instead of a LinkedIn, which may help you rise up. So always looking for ways that you can stand out from the pack, because you're not just maybe competing with your peers in class, you're competing with other students across the country that are also going for that role. So looking for ways that you can stand out, whether that's virtual or in person.
Yeah, the other resource that we have on Handshake under resources, you go to Handshake, Career Center, resources, it's called Career Shift. That is a database that would normally cost you money if you weren't with CMU, but CMU provides it for free to students and faculty and staff. Career Shift. It is a huge database in which you can do the same thing that Sean just said. You can find people's work emails. Sometimes you can find their phone numbers as well. So it's super helpful.
Yep. So
All right.
Definitely take advantage.
We don't have very much time for all those questions that I was hoping you would ask. Does anyone want to either shout it out or put it in the chat if there's anything we haven't talked about that you would like us to talk about, or that you would like us to try to answer?
Yeah, sure. I had a question. First of all, it's great to know that, we have access to all these resources. I've just stumbled upon some of them, but there's certainly a lot more than I thought there were. One kind of question I had, I'm kind of more interested in the tech space. And one kind of question I had is that nowadays it seems like a lot of resumes go through this like automatic filtering process, right? And it almost seems like when you applied, your application just goes into a black hole. What are your thoughts on that, and how might I, as a student who's sending in my resume, try to avoid that from happening, or try to get it to stand out in that sense?
No, I think it's a great question. It's actually something that's pretty relevant in today's time. So you probably see headlines on it, whether it's like the New York Times or Wall Street Journal or even on LinkedIn. It's happening in multiple different industries, but it's also due to the fact of recruiting teams are small. Recruiting teams at many of these companies are a few people, and especially the top tech companies and the top most popular companies. Some of these roles they're getting 25 to 30,000 applications for, and they're closing them off quick. So for example, like a Google or an Amazon or a Meta, sometimes they're only putting that role out there for 2 days because they know they're going to get 10,000 applications, and they want to be able to at least provide as good of a candidate experience possible. I think this is where, one, being a CMU student is step one, which you already have covered. But then again, you're also still looking at potentially hundreds of other resumes that you're going against. This goes back into kind of what we talked about, is showing the interest of when they're on campus. If they do come to campus, where can I connect with them? If they're putting on a virtual event or a webinar, how can I connect there? Who in the network based off CareerShift or LinkedIn or a CMU Universe, who can I connect with prior so that I've built a relationship? Because when you apply, you want to be able to reach out to those people and say, hey, I'm going to be applying to this role. I wanted to let you know, because they may be able to assign their name as a referral, or they may be able to reach out to the recruiter. They may be like, hey, remember that conversation we had in Gates, or we had that conversation in the CUC? Let's keep that going. So that's going to help you in that sense. Again, it's still numbers, but the more that you can bolster your networking ahead of time, that's going to help.
Yeah, the other thing is, make sure that your resume is actually a good match for the qualifications and the responsibilities of the job. So sometimes that does require a little tailoring of your resume. You never want to obviously include things that you haven't done, and you certainly don't want to lie on your resume, but you do want to make sure that your resume is in fact a good match for what they are advertising that they are looking for. So if they are looking for particular coding program languages, make sure that those are on your resume, not only just in your skills section, but maybe in one or two of the bullet points in the description of a project or a job that you've had. Also, there are some tips now for how to make your resume AI friendly, or ATS friendly, I guess is really what I mean, because certain things become illegible if you do it in LaTeX, or you have it really sophisticated design on your resume. It might make it somewhat illegible to the ATS, the applicant tracking system. So we're recommending really straightforward, black ink on white, plain background, no fancy anything, no columns, just make it straight across. Those things will make it more likely to get through the ATS, to be able to read your content, which then makes it more likely for a human being to actually be able to see it, to assess it.
And then,
Yeah.
and then in terms of, I saw a question in the chat here about signing up for career fairs. So one thing to mention is we open student registration 2 weeks before a career fair. So our first career fair will be the 13th for freshmen and sophomore. That's called, or the 12th. That'll be Jumpstart, which is for freshmen. Yeah, February. Yes, February. So that'll open 2 weeks before that. And then same thing goes for STEAM Fair, which is on the 13th. It'll be 2 weeks from that. So if you can't register, that's because we haven't opened it up for student registration quite yet. We're still getting all the employer registrations and information in there currently.
I have a question to both of you, and this is kind of a fantasy question. So if somebody gave you a lot of money and said, you have to make an ad for the Super Bowl, what would you say in 1 minute about Carnegie Mellon to enhance this program? What would be the topics? Not obviously not go into detail, but the reason I ask that is because I think and I have a little bias towards the studio, obviously, but I think the studio is unique and I've sat through several classes of Ricardo's and went around and talked to the students, and there's a lot of double majors in this area, which from where I came from, I was in project management for engineering and rockets and stuff like that. So it's not related directly to this, but the cross-fertilization at Carnegie Mellon is unique. And people that are double majoring have a better asset value to a corporation. And I'm just wondering what you guys would say for the 1 minute ad, or just a couple topics. Unless that's too bizarre of a question.
Elevator pitch that you present to employers?
It's sort of an elevator pitch, but I guess I'm trying to find out. I sat through some of the marketing things for CFA and I was just trying to look for a message that's continually coming out of why Carnegie Mellon for what you guys do. That's what I'm asking.
No, I definitely could, I would say this. CMU alumni are probably some of the most sought after professionals worldwide. To be able to access the innovation, to be able to see what these students are doing, I would look at what our students go out and solve, the problems they solve. And I'll tell you this, I work with a company, Milwaukee Tool, and Milwaukee Tool is located in Milwaukee. They're a huge manufacturing company, but probably not the most well-known company in the world. But I'll tell you this, they hired one CMU alum with machine learning background, and they have made Milwaukee Tool millions of dollars. And they even say, if we can get one more of them, that'll help set the course for Milwaukee Tool for years to come. Our students are solving real world problems. They're doing it with an ethical mindset. They're understanding that this affects and impacts people from all different walks of life. And as we look at industries, whether it's information technology, healthcare, biotechnology, music and technology, we are an interesting campus in the sense that we have business students, tech students, and music students and theater students, and they're all world renowned. And it's because our admissions process finds the most peculiar and interesting and motivated and engaging students across the world, not just from the United States, but from all parts of the globe, to really better the world that we're going to live in. And they're very future mindset. So again, recruiting from Carnegie Mellon is really recruiting from a global recruitment strategy of the top minds in the country.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. Earlier you talked about hiring music and technology for company and kind of the different routes you can take. And you mentioned a little bit about freelance work, and I'm wondering, what does freelance work look at in terms of the music technology and not just kind of like the music side of it?
Yeah, I think that it's sometimes contract work. So somebody has a project and they need somebody to do the production side or the sound engineering side, and you're hired on a contract basis. So it might be for a project that is going to take a couple of weeks. It might be for some big live event that's coming up 6 months down the road, and you have to do a lot of, pre-work. So I think contract work is one thing. I think collaborating with other artists is another thing that sometimes comes up. Pay is question mark, it depends who has the money to pay who. But there is, I think, a lot of collaboration with music and tech students with other musicians, and cool stuff, can be produced from that. So I see people who, there's a whole range, as you know, within your group there. Some people are more performers who also do technical things. Some people are more technical and not so much musicians. And there's often interesting combinations when you guys find each other.
Thank you.
Other questions here?
Yeah, I think there's just one quick question on the chat about signing up for a one-on-one session with either of you. So if you could address that.
So
Yeah.
I do one-on-one sessions. I don't know that, Sean, you really do. I think for you, they might just need to drop in, right? But for me, you make an appointment on Handshake. You go to Handshake Career Center appointments and then schedule a new appointment, and your major will make me pop up because I'm the only career consultant for the School of Music. I also do BXA if music is part of your BXA. And then there's just a calendar. You choose a slot that works for you and you sign up, and then that's it. I'm in the West Wing, which is over by Resnick, next to the football stadium. And I also do Zoom meetings, so it can be either virtual or in person. Sean's over in the lower level of the CUC.
Yeah, I spend most of my time talking with companies, but students always stop by. I love being able to chat with students, especially about what their interests are and what are the things that they're looking for. Because again, I'm always looking for companies or connections that maybe we don't have or could strengthen.
So who's on the list to come in the spring that we would be interested in?
So far, you mean for the STEAM fair?
Yeah.
So let's see. Let's see.
The list is not yet,
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to see.
yeah. We still have a couple of weeks, just like
Mm,
everything else. A lot of people sign up at the last minute.
What's that
Yeah,
called? What's that called? The what fair?
STEAM, so that stands for science, technology, engineering, arts, and math.
And how long does it last?
It's 4 hours. Yeah, so it's from 2 to 6 p.m. on the 13th. And then we have a undergraduate first and second year networking event the night before on the 12th, and that's from 5 to 7.
And where is it held?
On Pittsburgh campus in the Wigan gym, so in the gym.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Yeah, and if there are any freshmen or sophomores on this call, I really highly recommend Jumpstart, even if there aren't companies that you are really excited about. It's a great opportunity to practice talking to corporate recruiters who are here on campus, and they are there specifically that night to meet with first and second years. And it's a good way to start building up a relationship, because often these recruiters are the same people who come back year after year. So even if you don't get a job with them the first year, you come back the next year's to the career fair and you say, oh, I remember speaking to you last year, and they'll remember you as well.
Yeah, and like I said, to keep an eye out on the events that are happening in Handshake as well, not just the career fairs, because for example, Apple, so if you're looking at Apple Music and some of the hardware stuff, or even the software side, Apple will be coming in early February, and they're a partner of our office, so they're going to do what's called Apple Day. So we did one in the fall, they'll do another one in the spring. So keep an eye out for them, because the registration will be going out that way as well.
And just to sort of build on that idea of the STEAM fair, I want you all to know, if you're not familiar with our career fair schedule, we have a big one in the fall, and then we have this one in the spring, and the one in the fall is a lot bigger. So if you look at the list here of these companies and you say, oh, there aren't too many, don't get discouraged. If you don't think they apply to you, there's another fair that's much bigger in September.
Yeah, and the other thing too to think about too, they don't, if you think about music and technology, they may not be hiring the volume of people, let's say for just like a software engineering role. So like Meta may be hiring, let's say 100 software engineers, but maybe they're hiring 3 people on a certain niche team. So career fairs might not always be the best option for many of my employers. And that's kind of when I work from a consultant perspective. If they're looking for one person, a career fair doesn't make sense. Maybe they're looking for 2 people. It may look better to do a talk, or it may look better to do a meet and greet or a tabling. So as we're doing this outreach for music and technology over this semester, we'll have a lot more information on the capacity of many of these companies too. So that's something that I always like to say is career fairs don't actually make sense for every single employer. And we try to accommodate in that way too.
Yeah, and it doesn't make sense for every student either, because a lot of times it's more just gathering information and an opportunity to practice talking with recruiters. I don't know how many people actually end up getting jobs directly from a career fair. So it's just one of many different kinds of events that we put on. So if you can stop by, great. But if you miss it, there are other opportunities as well.
Are these highlighted in your newsletter?
I will highlight this in my next
Can
newsletter.
I get it, your newsletter? or am I not a student?
Yeah, I'll make sure, and put- you know what, I send it to all faculty. Are you on the faculty list?
No, but
Okay,
you can get you can get my email from Ricardo.
sure, yeah, I'll do that.
I would like to, I have opportunities in my studio here to have people come through that are interested. And that's why I asked about the Carnegie Mellon. There's a lot of people know Carnegie Mellon. It is world renowned, and you guys are Broadway sponsors,
Yeah,
which must bring some more people to your table.
Yeah.
That's quite a event. So I try to do whatever little I can do on my end.
well,
to
that's
promote it.
wonderful. That's wonderful. I do think that that's one of the very big selling points of Carnegie Mellon students is the university has a top tier arts school, generally, the College of Fine Arts, music being a part of that. We also have a top-notch computer school and engineering. And you put the two of them together and you get music and technology. And we really do have, I think we're ranked #1, the program in music and technology. So
You need to get Carnegie Mellon to take over the Carnegie auditorium over there by the library.
No.
yeah.
You don't have to answer that.
Well, and to be honest, guys, too, even if you just want to stop by and say, hey, we're more than happy to chat. We're, like I said, AnneMarie and I are both musicians. Also, if anybody's looking for a little side project, I've got a mixer that I'm having some issues with. So if anybody's good in hardware and wants to help me, just let me know and email me. I've got an Allen and Heath mixer that needs some help.
Okay, the question is what type of mixer?
Allen and Heath Z10 FX10.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's such a good one. I like it.
Yeah, email me. You guys can play with it. You're looking for something to mess with.
I fixed it for you.
Awesome. I'm gonna stop the recording now and we can.
Yes, there is another person I can